So the other day, one of my students was walking one of my most trusty old school horses, and she was walking him past this sign that is, it's like one of those little green, kid-sized signs. It says slow with the little sign. It says 5 miles an hour. And he's seen this a million times, right? And he's my trusty old guy, and she's walking him past it, and he has the biggest spook of his entire life at this sign, and we're all kind of baffled and confused, why today, why now, what's happening. And it wasn't until much later, when I actually brought him back over to the sign, when he was then de-escalated and kind of ready to use his thinking brain, that we realized that the angle of the sun was causing a really intense glare off the little metal sign that the little green guy is holding. And it was probably really hard for him to see what it was, but he could see a figure there, and so he had this really big spook. And so that made me kind of want to have a little talk here about spooking. And then that, coupled with the fact that this last video that I posted last week about sacking out had a lot of really great questions in the comment section about what to do in various situations with a horse that spooks or gets nervous about various things or is reactive to various things. And so I thought I would come in here and do another video today about some of the nuances of working through fear and spooky behaviors with your horse. So let's talk about that. Okay, I'm back, and this time from my house, because what was I thinking trying to film at the barn? If you're new here, my name's Ruby. I'm a whole horsemanship trainer, and it is my goal to help you and your horse to develop a deeper bonding connection through whole horsemanship and wellness practices. Today, we are talking about your horse that is afraid of everyday objects. So I want to start by first acknowledging there's sort of a feedback loop that you and your horse can get into, where, let's use the example of, I used to work with somebody who was convinced her horse is afraid of bikes, and she would see a bike coming down the trail and she would start to get nervous and tense up, and her horse would sense that and in turn also get nervous and tense up, and then inevitably the horse would spook. But it wasn't really because the horse was afraid of bikes, it was because the horse was picking up on the person anticipating the fear of the bike. When we removed the person's fear of the bike, the horse stopped spooking at bikes, which was just kind of fascinating. So this feedback loop can either play in your favor or against you, and this can work by either when you get nervous, your horse gets nervous, so you get more nervous and you're feeding back to each other. Or it can work as you're calm and relaxed and confident, and so your horse picks up on that and becomes also calm and relaxed and confident. And then now you have this good feedback loop where you're both giving each other more confidence and trust. That's what we're aiming to do today with these exercises. So now I also want to acknowledge that there are really two different things that we need to address here, two different versions of sort of a spook of everyday objects. The first is the thing that you know your horse is going to spook at. So let's go back to the bike example. So if you know your horse is going to spook at a bike, we can bring that bike into a really controlled environment and work with our horse to gain confidence around bikes and understanding of what a bike is and what a bike might do, and that might help the bike to feel more predictable and therefore less scary to your horse. The other version is a fear of unexpected or surprise elements, and that might be I used to have a pony when I was a kid, and we'd go on the same trail all the time. She was never afraid of anything. Anything could happen and didn't matter. And one time we went down this trail, and a tree that had been upright and living and thriving last time we came was knocked over from the wind. And this was super unsettling and scary for my pony, and I did not see it coming. But the ultimate idea is that because it was different from how it was last time, this was a really scary event for her. And ultimately, there's nothing we can really do about that. We can't control whether or not trees fall down, or somebody parks a new piece of equipment on the ranch, or a dog comes running out of a bush. We can't control any of that. And so that's a little bit of a different approach in terms of teaching our horse how to find confidence in us in those moments. So let's start with the first version. Let's start with the version where we know that this item is going to be scary for our horse. It's always scary, and we are going to try to bring some control to this particular item in a way that is going to help our horse to find more confidence and understanding of what this item is and how to find more confidence in us in those moments. Okay, so let's use the bike again as an example. And I think it would be really helpful to go back and rewatch the video that I made last week about sacking out, because that video is going to help you to sort of understand this process in a little bit of a deeper way and kind of understand my personal philosophy around sacking out and how I like to introduce horses to scary things. But we're going to use a really similar concept here. And the idea is, let's say we will use the bike again. We'll have a bike stationed somewhere that's still and stationary in a calm environment. Sometimes it's helpful to do this when your horse is tired, so after a ride or a lunge, so that they're not kind of like looking for scary things, or they've kind of already gotten out any excess energy. And you're just going to like nonchalantly bring your horse near the bike. And what you're looking for is any subtle signs that your horse is starting to feel nervous about this bicycle. So you might look for any tension building in your horse, snorting, ears perking, and that's about as far as you're going to go for right now. So you're just going to go to a point where your horse is just starting to feel nervous, and then you're going to help your horse to see the bike and experience the bike from that distance where they're alerted to it, but they're still feeling safe and you still have their attention. What we're trying to do is avoid getting to the point where our horse goes into fight or flight and either bolts or kicks out or does anything that could ultimately become dangerous for us. We're going right up to the point where they're starting to be nervous, but not to the point where they feel they need to take action against this scary object. So we're going to help our horse to see the bike from both angles. We're going to maybe walk some circles, retreating a little bit when they calm down and relax, and then coming a little bit closer again when we feel ready. And the one thing I want you to be really careful of here is that you're not saying, oh, it's okay, good boy, giving your horse lots of pats, because what ultimately that's doing is telling your horse that the reaction to the bike is what is good, and it's going to actually make your horse more reactive. So when they're being nervous, you're just going to give them some space to experience the bike in a safe way and wait for them to look to you. And once they look to you, that's when you're going to reward them. When they look to you calmly, that's when you're going to reward them with good boy. You might give them a scratch, maybe a hay pellet. And if you're interested in positive reinforcement, I have some videos about that as well. Or maybe you're just going to simply retreat away from the bike, and that is the reward for looking to you. They get to go away from the scary thing. And then you're going to repeat this. You're going to maybe go away and come back several times. And maybe each time you just get like a little bit closer to the bike. And you're going to let them again process, feel nervous, look at it, but without actually getting close enough that they feel the need to take on fight or flight. And when they relax and look at you, you're going to walk away again. And we're just going to keep going back and forth until ultimately we're able to get close enough that your horse, and maybe this happens over several days or even several weeks, doesn't have to happen just in one session, until your horse is able to get close enough that they can actually smell the stationary bike without reacting or going into fight or flight. And then we're going to give them an opportunity to experience the bike while it's stationary. The next step, this might require two people, depending on what it is that you are trying to expose your horse to. But the next step would then be to have your horse follow the bike. So you might have somebody either walk or slowly ride the bike away from you while you are following the bike with your horse. And this teaches the horse that they have some control over the situation and that they can ultimately influence the space. Sorry, I'm also at home with my kids this morning, so sorry for any background noise. Then once you're able to follow the bike without your horse being too reactive or nervous, then you might have the bike come towards your horse. And again, you're going to be really, really closely paying attention for those subtle signs that your horse is starting to feel nervous, that they're starting to become tense, that their ears are perking up, and that's where you're going to have the bike stop. So then once you're able to bring the bike closer to your horse and they're no longer reacting to that, now you might start to have the bike we're going to start increasing the pressure. So now you might have somebody riding the bike in front of your horse going past, or in front the other direction, or maybe behind them at a safe distance going past. And eventually the goal is to work up very slowly over time to somebody actually being able to ride their bike all around the horse, and maybe even like at speed or stopping suddenly. So our goal is that over time we're increasing the pressure, we're increasing the exposure to this scary thing, but we're doing it in a really safe and slow way where we're really prioritizing our horse looking to us with calm and curiosity. And then that's when we're giving them that reward of either the scary thing going away, or we're telling them they're a good boy, or giving them a pat, something along those lines. The other thing I want to really, really be clear about here is if you are concerned that your horse is going to be reactive in a dangerous way to you, if you have any inkling at all that could happen, it's really important that you look for help from an experienced trainer for a couple of reasons. And one is that feedback loop again. So if you start to see your horse getting nervous and you know that this is going in the direction of a really big spook or a really big reaction, or they're going to bolt or buck or whatever, you are going to start to go into your own fight or flight. And now you're no longer able to help your horse see you as the confident and controlled person that you need them to see you as in order for this to work. And also, if your horse actually does do something that is a big reaction and ultimately does scare you, you're also going, it's only going to make that feedback loop worse, where next time you go to do something like this with your horse, you're going to start to feel more nervous. So it's really, really important that if you have any concern about your own safety or your own ability to control the situation, that you pass this off to a trusted trainer. Okay, so option number two, or spook version number two, is when your horse spooks at something that is unexpected. And again, we can't control this. We can't control whether or not a dog comes out of the bushes or the weather changes suddenly, or, you know, a helicopter flies overhead. We have no control over that. What we do have control over, though, is practicing these environments with our horse so that when they happen, our horse knows that their first instinct should be to look to you to process whether or not this is a scary moment that requires fight or flight, or if this is something that they can just be relaxed and in control about as well. And so the way to do this really is to do a lot of practice with the sacking out that I showed in the previous video, where we're using lots and lots of different objects and things that make all kinds of different noises and things that maybe make different smells. Like, think about, you know, I don't know, an umbrella, or you can think about like maybe like a confetti popper or a bell or a whistle, or things that they wouldn't normally be exposed to in their normal day-to-day life that might feel new and different and maybe a little bit scary to them. And we're going to use the same process of how we expose them to it. And what we're looking for is really for them to slow down, to look to you, to decide that it's safe, and to show that they're relaxing over and over and over again. And when we do encounter things that are unexpected, and when it feels like our horse is being safe and using their thinking brain instead of their reacting brain, when they do encounter new things, we can even maybe encourage them to go a little bit closer and to really dive into that curiosity and maybe smell it or touch it. As soon as they go to fight or flight brain, there's no learning happening. There's no point in pushing your horse through this. All you're doing is teaching learned helplessness, which really doesn't actually solve the problem. It just kind of makes it look like your horse is calm and relaxed, but ultimately on the inside, they're really nervous. And so that can create like kind of unexpected pop out blow ups, which we don't want. So all that to say, this is really an exercise in patience and repetition and building your trust in your horse and your horse's trust in you over a long period of time. This is not something that happens overnight. And if you feel that it would be helpful to work with a trainer, please, please seek one out, because there are many of us out there that have a really similar approach. And I do think it's important to find a trainer that you really feel aligned with and that you feel like you see eye to eye with, because I really think it's important that you feel like you are in the driver's seat of your relationship with your horse. I hope that that video is helpful to you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I get a lot of inspiration from the comments you guys have been leaving on the last few videos. It really helps me to think about topics like this that would be helpful to you guys in your everyday lives with your horses, and to help your horse be more enjoyable and deepen your relationship. And that is about the time that I have according to my boss over there. So I'm gonna head out. I hope you have a great day, and make sure to hug your horse for me.